Joining us now with more on this, ABC News White House correspondent Mary Alice Parks. So, Mary Alice, we know that Trump has denied this report in its entirety. No surprise, saying that he was under no obligation to turn over the documents. But there is something called the law, and it does require that. So where do things go from here?
Yeah, Kira, like you said, the National Archives talking to the Justice Department about whether there should be a criminal case here. It is against the law to destroy government documents, especially if there's any question about whether classified material was mishandled. And I was struck by this statement given to the Washington Post from the Archivist of the United States. He wrote, "The Presidential Records Act is critical to our democracy in which the government is held accountable by the people, whether through the creation of adequate and proper documentation." He goes on, "There should be no question as for the need for both diligence and vigilance. Records matter." And remember, Carrie, in this moment, we have members of Congress looking specifically to get their hands on presidential records. They're questioning whether or not there's information and evidence about the buildup to January 6th and the attack on the Capitol that could be found in those records. And so there's an incredible spotlight into paperwork and where it went and if it was properly handled.
So what sort of documents are we talking about here? What documents did Trump allegedly destroy, or at least attempt to destroy?
Yeah, we don't know the answer to that, and I think that that is exactly what has people here in Washington nervous. There's a question about whether there could have been classified material that was mishandled, or things that are necessary for record keeping. I mean, you heard the former president there talking about these really prized possessions, things like letters from foreign leaders or letters from past presidents. Those are the kinds of things that normally end up very well preserved, a part of history maintained in museums and in archives. And I think that, everyone here in Washington is very curious exactly that. What records could we be talking about?
Also, another million-dollar question, could the former president actually be prosecuted over this?
It's hard to imagine that. It's hard to imagine the former presidents being prosecuted. The bar for that is just so high. But like I said, this comes at such an interesting time and very much in part of the investigation going on Capitol Hill, with lawmakers trying to uncover information in the lead up to the January 6th attack. There's been numerous legal cases around that, numerous subpoenas. They're trying to get their hands on all call logs and all records. And if they feel like any of this material was destroyed intentionally to try to cover something up, for example, I would be pretty sure that lawmakers are going to fight for any and all information that they can get their hands on.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, while we have you with us, as you know, President Biden just spoke a few moments ago. We took it here live on ABC News Live about health care and prescription drug costs in the U.S. What's the latest on the Biden administration's efforts to drive down those prices? I mean, as you mentioned earlier, it's a new speech, but old push.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. They are trying really hard to jumpstart their legislative agenda, which frankly has been completely stalled on Capitol Hill. I think we're going to see a lot more speeches like this in the next few months. The White House wants to get the president out there talking to Americans about what his ideas are for trying to combat this inflation that they're dealing with. They want to remind voters that they have ideas, even though what voters are mostly reading about is that those ideas have stalled and not been passed into law. But, he's pushing a lot of the same ideas. Like you said, these are old ideas, a push to get Medicare to be able to negotiate drug prices. I think it'll be very interesting in the next few months to see if he can strike a bipartisan deal around that. There's been some talk that maybe a way to push that through Congress is to limit the number of drugs that Medicare would be able to negotiate on. So maybe it's only 20 of the most expensive drugs or the most common drugs. So we'll be tracking any bipartisan conversation around that. But another idea the president has long talked about is whether or not Medicare recipients should have their price of prescription drugs capped. These are extremely popular provisions, so no wonder the president wants to be out there talking about it.
Yeah, and hoping probably to improve his poll numbers as well. Mary Alice Parks, thanks so much.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.